Hello, my TV. Welcome back. I'm here with director and producer Bron Theron.
Yep, BRON, so Bron.
Bron, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you're here, you're directing a lot of stuff. Tell us about what you have coming out.
Promo time already?
Well, let's start.
Okay.
Let's start.
Yeah, I'm down. So I have a movie that just is coming out now on Amazon Prime. It's called Pancake Man. It is a revenge slasher mixed with crime, I guess horror, like we discussed, if it's under the horror category. But it's definitely a revenge movie. So that's what I'm promoting the most right now. And you can watch that on Amazon Prime.
So, let's talk about how you first got into film. Let's go back to the very beginning before we get to now. How did you get into film?
Sure. So, I think my first stuff ever was I was videoing skateboarding because I come from a skateboarding background. So we'd make little skate videos in high school. And then I kind of fell into like a graffiti art world where I did a lot of graffiti stuff, and then I started videotaping that. When I moved down here, I'm originally from the Bay Area, from Santa Cruz. I moved down here, and luckily, well, I was trying to be an actor, right? So I was answering ads in this thing called Backstage, and I luckily answered an ad for a touring artist. So I started going on tour with groups like The Roots and LL Cool J and De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest, all these rappers. And every city I would go there and I would paint and on stage with, while they would do their thing on stage. And every city I went to, I would videotape the graffiti in that city. So then I would come home and edit it and make little graffiti documentaries. So technically that would be the first time I really directed a film doing documentaries about graffiti.
But then you've made the switch over to narratives.
Right, I switched over to narratives on the last tour. So what I did was I made my first feature film with actors. I made a mockumentary, and that was a cross between Spinal Tap and 8 Mile. So it was like a comedy spoof about rapping, and because I met so many rappers on tour. And so that technically was a narrative, you know what I mean? Because it was about two guys trying to win rap battles and become signed and become successful. And then from there, actually, sad story, after I made that movie, I got so burnt out on making movies because I went to Sundance and I showed it, not in Sundance, but during Sundance. And then I went to Austin during Austin's festival and I sold it. And I kept on pushing this movie, and I got a distributor, and then it was on Best Buy, and it was on Walmart, and all these great things. But then nobody paid me. I made no money. I lost all this money. So I got bitter, and I kind of stopped for a while. And then I would say 5 or 6 years later, I was like, I want to give it a go again. So
what made you come back?
That's a good question. I mean, life's short, YOLO. So you got to do things that you love to do, even if they take a lot out of you. So I think I just, I don't know. Can I cuss on here? I shouldn't cuss.
All right. Allow it.
All right. I said fuck it, and I came back. so then I started making movies again.
So you come back. You're making. You've got a lot of different kinds of movies. You've done more comedy.
Yes, we kind of started going into it with, I have a comedy web series called Real Acting, and that was much like a mockumentary as well, much like the Primal Rap movie, but it was more like The Office, and it was about like a con man that was an acting teacher. And so from there, from that series, that went on to Amazon, and then I went from there into the feature that I was telling you about called Half Dead Fred. And Half Dead Fred is a bigger production. We went and shot that in Michigan, Flint, Michigan, actually. And that one was about a medium detective. So he saw ghosts and he was trying to solve murders and find a treasure. So it was a much more intricate thing than just being like a little webisode series. So that was a pretty big one, actually, Half Dead Fred.
So you made a bunch of comedies. How have you found the market for comedies to be?
Well, it's a tough sell, like we were discussing before. Comedies in America don't translate well outside of America because they just have a different idea of what comedy is, unless like Will Ferrell is in it or some big A-list actor, which I am totally in the independent film world. So everything I do is independent. It's not big budgets. We might have a few actors from time to time, some well-known names in my movies, but we don't have a Will Ferrell. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to sell comedy in other countries, and that's where a lot of the market is for movies in general, content in general. So that's why I kind of transitioned to horror a little bit more. And they're very similar. They have the same beats, and you can make horror comedies. So you can still do comedy, but if it's classified as horror, I think you have more of a fan base.
A lot of people think of horror and comedy as being complete opposites on separate spectrums, but when you're making it, they're actually really similar.
They're similar because it's all about timing and it's all about the beats of the storyline and the jokes. I think for comedy, I think you have to write faster. So you have to write way more jokes because not everybody gets the same jokes. So you gotta have to do like pop culture jokes and dick and fart jokes and then man falling down type of jokes, physical comedy. You know what I mean? So comedy, I think you have to write more, whereas like horror, you can go a little bit slower in the path. So they're different but similar. You have to follow a timeline, and I like doing both. I like actually mixing those two. So have a good happy medium. I like to do that if I can.
Yeah. So you also have these horror films. You have one that we talked about. You also have this one.
This one is we just won best horror feature for the Culver City Film Festival. This film is called Fear Anonymous, and there's a lot of comedy in this film, tons of comedy in this film. So, and I don't think it's that scary, like I was mentioning to you, but I do think we do have some animal abuse in this movie, and I think that is scary for some people. We get the most reaction from that. But yeah, there's tons of comedy in this movie as well as horror. This is not out yet. This is still doing festival and theater runs, but it'll be out shortly.
So where do you think the line is between comedy and horror and all these other kinds of genres?
The line? I don't know, because I think everybody has a different definition of horror, and what's scary to me isn't maybe going to be scary to you. So I don't know where the line is. I just know that when you make a movie and it has any element of fear, I think you should try to categorize it as a horror, because that genre by nature attracts more people.
Why is that?
Because there's a lot of sick people out there. Yeah, they want to be scared. I don't know. It's a big fan base. But it's like we were talking about how comedy doesn't translate. Well, horror does translate. So like what's afraid to us Americans can still be the same thing in China or Russia or Germany. And those are good markets. You can't deny those.
So then, yeah, tell us about what has it been like working on these films that you've done recently?
About the actual work?
Yeah.
Well, I hold a lot of hats, right? When you're an independent filmmaker, a lot of times you are 5 jobs, 6 jobs, 7 jobs, whatever. So I feel like, so I write and I direct and I edit these, and a lot of times me and my wife are a team. She helps me, AD, project manager, catering, like all these things, that we do. Gets to be like a job. You feel like a job if you do so much, right? And so I would say that when I'm doing these things on set, I'm very serious, because all the time I'm thinking about, well, how am I going to cut this together? How am I going to cut this together? What do I need? How many actors do I have to babysit? What do I have to do? What does this person need to do their job? What does this person need to do their job? Versus outside of set, when I'm not there, I'm pretty sarcastic. I'm fun. I like to joke around a lot, and how, you know what I mean? I'm like a very charismatic person, when I'm not working. So my goal is to actually have more fun and you know, do less jobs or do less worry, have less worry when you're on set, and not walk around going, how am I going to cut this together? How am I going to cut this together? I'd rather walk around set and be like, oh man, that last take was great. She made me laugh. That was great. I love her. You know, and just have a good time and joke about stuff and watch blooper reels. And you know what I mean? Like, I want to have more fun. So, my goal is, and usually you have more fun when you have more time, and you have more time when you have more money. So, my goal is to get more money to make the stuff I want to make so I can have more fun while making it.
So, how do you go about doing that? How do you raise the funds to make these films?
So, Half Dead Fred and Pancake Man, we both did crowdfunding. So we did this thing called Indiegogo, and both of them were pretty successful. I think we raised like 35 grand for Half Dead Fred. I think we got more for Pancake Man, like 45, and that's not enough to make a movie, by the way, but it helps. Even on these low budgets, you have, it's just expensive. It adds up. So crowdfunding, I obviously go to friends and family. I put my own money in. Any way that you can make it happen. I mean, that's kind of like what your job is in independent film. You just have to make it happen because that's your gig.
So what is it that keeps you going? Because there's so many challenges with being a filmmaker. It's hard. You think, oh, it's like this part's gonna be easy. No, it's hard all the way through, but you keep going and you're making it.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think life is short. You know, I think we all kind of have a shelf life. We're not going to be around forever. But ironically, our films will be. Yeah. So maybe inside my head, I'm thinking it's a way to keep living even though I'm going to be gone someday. But plus, I just have a lot of ideas that I'd like to get out into the world. You know, if you're into film or like, I love film, you know, I like stories, and I see so many things that, you know, a true filmmaker will watch films and think like, well, I can do better than that. I got a story to tell. If that guy can do that or that girl can do that, I know I can, you know? So I think maybe it's just a matter of me getting things out of my head, the desire to get things out of my head.
So what other ideas do you have in your head? Is there anything in development?
Nothing. I have no ideas. No, I have I just finished writing a rom-com, actually. So the rom-com is going to be the next thing I'm directing. And it's mixed. It's a rom-com, but it's mixed with like a little thriller elements. And next week I start producing a time travel movie, a sci-fi thing for my buddy. So I have some ideas, and then I have to make a sequel actually to Pancake Man because we left it to be continued. So that's the next thing. The next directing jobs for me are going to be the rom-com and then hopefully the sequel to Pancake Man. Yeah.
Now, the industry is rapidly changing. How is that affecting the independent cinema?
The industry is definitely changing for everyone, independent and major studios. I mean, yeah, you can read the news that all these studios are getting bought out, going bankrupt, you know, disappearing. Theaters are disappearing. Independent theater is changing a lot, though. Independent movie making is changing a lot based on technology. Like, it's a lot easier. Like, even right here, you know, notice we have like all these iPhones looking at us, right? So this movie I made with 2 iPhones, and it looks amazing. You know what I mean? And you couldn't do that just, I don't know, just 10 years ago you couldn't do that. I guess Sean Baker did that, but his stuff is really shaky. But he didn't care, you know what I mean? He started doing it with an iPhone, and we all can make movies with our iPhones, long story short. So technology has changed it, and also AI is changing it, that we can do lots of different things very quickly, very cheaply. And so it's an amazing thing and also a crappy thing. And the crappy part is it kills all these departments, you know? If you can do things easier, you need less people. So it is changing. Another good thing though about that is I can rent a theater right now. I can do a theater run if I have the money to do a theater run. I don't have to have my film rated, which used to be very expensive to do. You can just, I can go do an AMC run. I can do a Regal run as long as I pay for it and I pay for advertising and stuff like that to get people there. I can do that. You couldn't do that, you know, just 5-10 years ago. Now the theaters, because the theaters are accepting anything, because they are suffering since COVID, probably even before, really. Let's be honest. But COVID really accelerated that. And I think since everybody's just watching their phone and watching things at home, theaters are in trouble, you know? So it's like, what do you do when you're the independent filmmaker? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we can make them now. Yeah, we can get them in a theater. But damn, nobody's watching anything in theaters. You know what I mean? So then we have to go back to streaming. And streaming doesn't pay very well, you know? Put it to you this way. So, like, I have a few films on Amazon, right? Which is great. It's a great platform. But Amazon takes half of the money. And then if you use the distributor, they take half the money. So that means that every dollar that I make through Amazon, I make a quarter of that. And they don't do any of the marketing, they don't do any of the promotion, they don't do any of that. So then I'm making a quarter of the earnings, plus I have to spend my money on the marketing and all that stuff. Then I get taxed on the 25%. Wow. Why would you want to be a filmmaker? Doesn't sound promising, does it? But if you want to make movies happen, it's part of the game. It's like what you sign up for.
So, in addition to being a filmmaker, you're also an artist. So you make murals too. Does that affect your work in cinema?
You know, I guess it does. I never really thought about it that much, but someone brought that to my attention a few days ago. I have a friend that's working on our website for Pancake Man and a few other projects. And she pointed out that it does have a lot to do with visually how I shoot stuff. And I definitely put a lot of graffiti art in my movies. So that is definitely like part of set dress and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess it does have an effect. I've been a professional graffiti artist for many years, like 25 years. So over 25 years, a long time. So, and what does that mean? Well, that means that I, you know, do a lot of artwork related stuff. You know, I do graphic design for different companies, shoes, shirts. I do large scale murals on buildings. That is the way actually I fell into doing Half Dead Fred, because we went to Flint, Michigan and did murals illustrating the water crisis that was going on in Flint, Michigan. And the guy that ran the Flint Public Art Project, his name is Joe Scupani, he had this huge house that looked like a haunted house. And I said, hey man, we should shoot a movie here. And we did. We ended up doing it. It wasn't just talk, you know? So yeah, I kind of fell into that movie by being a muralist. So yeah, it definitely has cause and effect. I don't think about it that much, but yeah, everything you do in life has some effect to something else, you know what I mean?
And it's all art.
It is all art. I'd say the major difference, here's the major difference that I'd like to point out. When I work on a mural, 90% of the time, it's just me. When I work on a film, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people. It's not just me.
Do you prefer doing it just your own thing, or do you like working with the team?
I would say I like doing my own thing, but you have to work with a team. When, you know, unless I made a whole movie from my script with AI, and it's just me doing prompts. But that's going to be a lonely premiere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like both, I guess, to answer your question. I mean, teamwork equals dream work.
Well, where can our audiences find your films?
So you can check out Half Dead Fred on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Apple TV. I think it's on like Roku. Oh, YouTube. It's on some cinema site on YouTube. So that one's everywhere. Half Dead Fred. We just released Pancake Man. That's going to be on Amazon Prime. And Actually, you could stream this one right now in a film festival until the 13th. It's called Dreamcatchers. Because you know how film festivals
Yeah,
stream
yeah.
now?
Sometimes they're online. Yeah.
Right, yeah, so they're doing that right now. So you can watch Fear Anonymous. Our next screening in person is in Rhode Island, but those two films I think are good to start with, Half Dead Fred and Pancake Man. Well, Pancake Man I gotta push. Everywhere I go right now I'm talking Pancake Man. So if you can watch Pancake Man, I'd be appreciative of that because.
What can people expect from it?
You know what? If you like slasher revenge, blood, fight, titty kind of movie, that's what that is. But it's also kind of comic booky in a way and has a lot of witty comments. It's like kind of like a Guy Ritchie movie where like different storylines kind of meet up at the end, like a nice Mexican standoff. I think it's visually very pleasing, so I'm pretty proud of Pancake Man.
Great. And where can they find out more about you and about all of your work?
Well, you can follow me. We got Facebook accounts for all these movies, and Instagram. So you can find me. White Ninja Productions is my personal Instagram, and we have Fear Anonymous and Pancake Man the movie. They're both on there. So let's see, and Half Dead Fred the movie. Yeah, Half Dead Fred's a good movie, and if you like, Corin Nemec is the star of that, so he does pretty good. Jason London's in that. He was in Dazed and Confused, and so it's got a good cast in that one, and I think the storyline's pretty good. So Half Dead Fred is great to see. So yeah, you can find me on all those social media stuff, but not TikTok. I don't do any TikTok. I don't know why. I think it's just for younger people. I'm just too old for it, I think. But Instagram, yes.
Well, yeah, you can catch him on all those places. Please go watch his films if you love anything horror related or comedy or all these different things that you've done. And thank you so much, viewers, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.